Good morning. If you haven't seen this magnificent display, please take a look. Isn't that wondrous? Today we're going to have a good time.
All right.
We're going to come to a definitive conclusion about the insubstantiality of a personal identity. Okay? Has anyone been trying to get rid of their personal identity? Raise your hand if you've been trying to get rid of your personal identity. Or your ego, you might call it your ego or your personality. All right, very good. Well, to begin with, in the all-encompassing pure view of awareness, the all-encompassing vast expanse, which includes and contains everything that is included and contained therein can be described as a point of view. The all-encompassing pure view of awareness, anything that appears within it is a point of view of that all-encompassing pure view of awareness, and it's never anything other than that. And this all-encompassing pure view of awareness can be likened to pure space. So just like the space around us and the infinite expanse of the sky, the vault of the sky, is a pure space, so everything within that vault of the sky, within that pure space, is also comprised of space, no matter what it is. And today, we can not only arrive at an intellectual conclusion about this to some degree, but we can also prove it through different scientific instrumentation we have. So, when we look at something like a personal identity, we want to first of all talk about what a personal identity is. Well, a personal identity is a point of view within the all-encompassing pure view of awareness that takes itself to be something that is born, that then goes through a life of waking, dreaming, and sleeping, and then dies. So that is what a personal identity is. And all subsequent points of view that appear once that personal identity point of view has appeared relate back to that personal identity point of view rather than to the authentic source, which is the all-encompassing pure view of awareness. Now, all the points of view that appear within the all-encompassing pure view of awareness are absolutely equal by nature. So the point of view of an individual or a personal identity and the point of any other point of view that appears, dog, cat, depression, fear, anger, joy, bliss, advanced states of altered consciousness, all of these are just points of view within the all-encompassing pure view of awareness. Just like stainless sky has never fallen anywhere and never gets stuck anywhere, the all-encompassing pure view of awareness has never been stuck anywhere because everything is itself. So there's never been an obstruction to occlude it or impede it in any way. There's nothing anywhere that has ever been substantial in and of itself. So this is a very easy way to come to a definitive conclusion about the personal identity or ego. When we inquire about a personal identity or ego, we have to know, first of all, where it dwells and where it came from. Those are the two things we need to know. And unless we can come to a definitive conclusion and say, yes, this personal identity dwells here, and that it comes from here, this certain source within us, then we can't really prove that it exists in its own right. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when we look for the location of a personal identity, this identity that is born and lives and goes through these states of waking, dreaming, and sleeping and then dies, we need to look at the essence of that. We need to just look within ourselves and examine it intellectually. This is very, very useful. We can come to some understanding about it intellectually, though we can't realize the definitive source of this point of view intellectually. In order to do that, we just need to rest as the awareness that is the basis of our examination about the personal identity. Now, this personal identity point of view, in reality, it is inseparable from the all-encompassing pure view of awareness, just like the color blue is inseparable from the sky, or just like the redness of a ruby is inseparable from the ruby. The redness of the ruby is the dynamic energy of the ruby. It can't be separated out from it. And any point of view, including the point of view of a personal identity, is comprised of pure space and cannot be separated out from pure space, just like the color blue cannot be separated out from the sky. So when we look for our personal identity within ourselves, knowing these facts, these realities about who we are, we can ask, well, where does this dwell? And how did this knowledge come upon me that it dwells somewhere here? That I really have this thing called an ego, that I really have this thing called a personal identity, which means, according to what I've described so far, when we consider ourselves to have a personal identity, then we take ourselves to be our personal history. That is called substantialization. We substantialize ourselves as having an independent origin that's based in a personal history of being born, living, and then at some point dying. So, in order to look at that, we have to know where this entity is, this thing is, this individual is, this person is, who was born, who is living, and who will die. And when we look within, we can look at everything. Can we say really that this personal identity is located anywhere? Can we find this I that we're trying to annihilate or transform or analyze or whatever we're trying to do with it? Can we find it anywhere? Can we really pinpoint the location of it in the brain? No one's been able to do that yet. No one has. Can we pinpoint the location of it in the heart? Not really. Can we pinpoint the location of it in the hand or the eye or the ear? Not really. Because when we look at any of these points of view of where it might be located, what are they comprised of? Aware pure space. That's what they're comprised of. So, and even if we take the composite of all the particles of the body and we say this is the individual identity, and we stop and look at its other aspects. So one aspect is that this is the individual identity, this that is sitting here in these chairs. But the other aspect is that it has no independent nature, that it's comprised of aware pure space and nothing else. And unless we know these two things, we will either be in one of two states. Either we'll be in the state of me, I exist, my personal identity exists, or we will be in nothing exists. So those are the two extremes. Either nothing exists or everything exists. I exist and everything related to me exists, or nothing exists, no matter what it is. However, forever stainless, flawless awareness has never stuck anywhere. It isn't stuck in any extreme, neither that the personal identity exists nor that it doesn't exist. The all-encompassing pure view of awareness is the actual experience of being, the ease of being and nothing else. And that ease of being never gets stuck anywhere. It's never fallen into a history of any kind. It's never fallen into time or space or any kind of holding to anything. It hasn't even fallen into holding to the universe as necessary to be. Do you see what I'm saying? So the ease of our being, the essence of our being, doesn't depend on anything. whether everything is or not, we are. And this is truly amazing, because this is not what most of us have learned. And even if we learn that there is something else, that there only is this impeccable awareness that is entirely non-dual, a single blissful expanse that is all-encompassing, very often because we've taken ourselves to be substantialized in a personal identity, then we look for a teaching that can desubstantialize the personal identity. In other words, somehow there's an evil being in there somewhere, and it's our foe, and we have to get rid of it in order for our brilliance to shine. But just like the diamond doesn't need to be changed in any way in order to shine, neither do we. If we engage in attempts to change any of our perceptions, any phenomena, any thoughts, emotions, or experiences, or any points of view, if we attempt to change anything, then we're attributing existence to it. So if we attempt to change a personal identity, an ego, a personality, we're attributing substantiality to it. We're saying it exists. If we try to change our thoughts, emotions, experiences, whatever they might be, into better thoughts, emotions, experiences, points of view, phenomena, whatever you might call it, then we're attributing substantiality to those things. We're saying they exist, and through changing these things, I can create a better state of affairs. That never works. It never works. And so this is why we see so many people endlessly trying to get rid of their personal identity through all kinds of ways and means, methods and practices. And all, with this great hope that at some point they will arrive and everything will be okay. That's what we really want. We want everything to be okay. We can call it enlightenment, awakening, liberation, or we can call it simply being human in an optimal way. But whatever we call it, we want to feel okay. That's what we want to feel okay. We want to be of benefit to ourselves, and we want to be of benefit to others. Well, when we look for this personal identity and we see that it is insubstantial, then immediately we know that there is no one seeking, and there is no destination to which anyone seeking could be going, because all is aware, pure space. So these are just two points of view appearing within the all-encompassing pure view of aware, pure space. But if we fiddle around with those 2 points of view and attribute substantiality to them, the seeker who is destined for some great state, then we'll spend a lot of our time wrapped up in those points of view and proliferating subsequent points of view that are related to those points of view. So what to do? Nothing. The ease of being is naturally present. The only reason we know we are, or anything is due to awareness. Without awareness, we wouldn't be aware of our own natural presence. So when we relax as that awareness, we go right to the root of who we are. We go right to the root of that isn't dependent on anything. Our awareness isn't trapped or located in here. It's an all-encompassing vast expanse. That's what our awareness is. When we just relax as that, when we rest repeatedly for short moments many times without any need to hold to all the points of view that come up, because most of us get into quite an ingrained habit of doing that. The thought comes up and right away we grab onto it and add some other thoughts to it, and we have thought A plus thought B plus thought C plus thought D plus thought E plus thought F equals I'm right. Or thought A plus thought B plus thought C plus thought D plus thought E equals I'm living in hell, you know. So you see, the moment a point of view comes up and we hold to it as substantial, then we substantialize ourselves as somebody. And what happens when we substantialize ourselves as somebody? We separate ourselves out from the single non-dual expanse. We say, I exist. I am substantial in and of myself, and everyone else is substantialized too. And now I've placed myself in a position where my substantialized self and its points of view need to compete with you and your substantialized points of view in order to show that I really am somebody. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is the whole process by which we as a human species have arrived at this critical juncture of nearly destroying ourselves. When we substantialize ourselves and we do not have familiarity with the authentic source of being, then it creates discord within ourselves. It creates great discomfort. Once we substantialize ourselves and substantialize everyone else, we're always at war within ourselves, then we create war with others. With the people who live in our family, we can never really quite get along well enough. We always want to be able to get along better. We always want to have more love. And the same is true in our communities and our countries and our world. So, you know, at no time in history have we been more acutely aware of this. In not attributing such fixed ideas to everything and just resting as the ease of being at the basis, we go beyond the limitations of such fixed points of reference. We're no longer tethered to these fixed points of reference, whether it's being somebody or not being anybody, whether it's time and space as the only constructs for the way things are, or cause and effect as the only constructs for the way things are. We go beyond words and concepts and the need to think about everything through this process of holding to points of view and then proliferating them endlessly. And when we just rest as the ease of being at the basis that is entirely beyond words and concepts, we begin to think and make decisions without thinking. We find that the basic space of each one of these thoughts, no matter what it is aware, pure space and nothing else. So in each thought, we rest as that which has no thought. These are not two. That's what non-dual means. No thought and a thought are not two. They're completely inseparable. The basic space of every thought is always completely at ease. If we only are familiar with its dynamic energy and its frenetic quality, then we don't know anything about its other aspect, which is always completely at ease, completely at rest. When we know that and we rest as that, then we have wisdom, the wisdom that does not require thinking, the wisdom of knowing what to do and how to act, the wisdom of love, of being able to love. And once we let go of all these tethers we've been holding on to fixed reference points, holding on so desperately, once we just relax and let them all go, then we have tremendous energy, because we've been expending so much energy just really tied up with a lot of fixed reference points. When we let those go, then we have tremendous wisdom energy to be of benefit to ourselves and others, and all of our talents that we have just create a great outburst of wisdom, of things that we never imagined ourselves being able to do. And all this comes from relaxation. And you know, whatever that is to you is whatever it is. Just know But that space within you that you feel when you just relax your body and mind completely. In all situations, you can relax body and mind completely, even if you're climbing Mount Everest. You'll probably have a better climb if you do. And to just completely allow that ease of being to what informs and drives everything, rather than frenetic thought processes. And just in that repeated return to rest until it becomes automatic, all of the points of view will resolve. The personal identity you've been trying to club over the head with this method and practice, or whatever you've been trying to do, dissolve it. Well, there's nothing to dissolve. So you see, if we try to do something to nothing, that's a dead end, isn't it? So if we're trying to work on something that doesn't exist in its own right, it's just a wasteful expenditure of energy. When we just rest as the wisdom at the basis of everything, then what naturally unfolds is complete effortless ease in all activity, coupled with tremendous energy. Everyone wants to be of benefit to themselves, at least. And that if you just want to be of benefit to yourself, even if you don't care about anybody else, just rest as awareness and be of benefit to yourself in that way. And what will naturally come from that is the desire to be of benefit to others. So you don't have to force yourself to want to benefit others, and you don't even have to force yourself to want to benefit yourself. Maybe you don't even want to benefit yourself. Just rest, no matter what the point of view is that comes up. Everyone in this room has lived for at least decades now, so there's probably a lot stirring in everybody here. And whatever it is, it's okay. It doesn't need to be changed. If it's painful, if it hurts, whether it's a past point of view or something happening now or something you're afraid of in the future or that you're hoping will happen in the future, no matter what it is, just rest and allow the ease of being just as it is to be what you're getting familiar with as your true nature. It doesn't matter what kind of life you've lived. You can be the worst person on earth who's done horrible things that have hurt millions of people, or you can be the greatest person who ever lived, or in between. It really doesn't matter. You don't have to be smart or schooled or anything at all. The ease of being is already naturally present as everyone, so that's all that's required to know one's true nature. With returning to that for short moments, repeated many times, it becomes automatic. And if you don't even want to do that, just continue listening to what is spoken about here in the Great Freedom Teaching. And if you continue to listen with an open mind, conviction will dawn without resting or anything. We have endless free downloads on our website of incredible full-length talks, so they're yours for the downloading, MP3 format. If you just listen with an open mind repeatedly, conviction will dawn. I have people who write to me from all over the world who download these free talks, and many people just put them into MP3 players and then carry the MP3 player with them. And while they're working, whatever they're doing, building a house, building furniture, plumbing, baking a cake, house cleaning, they're listening to these. And while they're doing all these things, conviction dawns. So what could be easier than that? It's very pleasant to listen to who we are, to listen to someone talking about who we are and not trying to make us into somebody who needs to be fixed. It's very pleasant to listen to that. So doesn't require much. Just listening with an open mind. No matter how insurmountable the problems are that you've accumulated so far in your life or what you're facing now, this is the solution. To continue to meddle with all those problems will only lead to more problems. To rest and enjoy the complete ease of your being, gaining radical familiarity with that, you will see how to solve your problems without thinking about it obsessively, whatever they are. A lot of the time when we're trying to change ourselves all the time, we're also trying to change everybody else. So when we just rest as the essence of our being, then we just automatically stop doing that. We stop trying to change ourselves. We stop trying to change other people. We develop more and more of a balanced view. We can see what makes everyone tick. And then we are much less likely, and then over time, totally unlikely to become bipartisan in any way. When we don't substantialize ourselves and we don't substantialize others, then we not only know intellectually that we're all united, we have a decisive firsthand experience of that. It can never be known just through intellectual scrutiny alone. And this is what we all want more than anything today. It's very important. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask? Anil?
You said thought or no thought. These are not two, they are one only. So just trying to think and trying to grasp that. So there is sometimes we are in awareness, but thoughts are there. So for just a moment, let us call it living in awareness, as opposed to a state where we are in awareness, but there is no thought. So that is rest in awareness. And eventually the living in awareness will merge into rest in awareness. Is that the correct understanding?
Could you repeat the last part of what you said?
So one state is living in awareness where thoughts are also present, but we are aware of our own identity, or let us say awareness. Mm-hmm. The second is rest in awareness where there is no thought. And I feel eventually the living in awareness, where the thoughts are there, will merge into the rest in awareness, the state without having any thoughts. So that is why you call it that thought or no thoughts are not two, they are just one?
Uh-huh.
That is what you mean?
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay, thanks.
Would you like to come up here and teach for a while? I'll have a chai. I'll sit in your chair and have a chai. When we begin to rest as awareness, then it seems like there's resting as awareness, and then there's all the thoughts, like a tiger watching its prey. However, we don't have to worry about any of that, the merging or if it'll happen or any of that. If we just continue to return to the ease that is at the basis, very naturally and very quickly we'll arrive at the point where it won't be two any longer. And we won't even be able to say when that happened or anything else. It's so organic. It's so natural to our being that when we acknowledge who we are And return to that repeatedly rather than getting caught only in the thought and its label and its proliferation, and it very swiftly becomes totally obvious. Now, it does require just this simple practice. So, listening until conviction dawns, or resting naturally, or a combination of the two.
But what to do when you are stuck in your emotion, that your body is reacting, thrilling, you cannot go back to rest, you cannot go back to awareness, you're completely in panic. What to do then when you are like this? It's really stuck in the emotion and you cannot stop it.
First, what to do is to strengthen yourself by resting as awareness with positive points of view. In other words, a point of view that you think is pleasant rather than disturbing, like panic. And when you strengthen yourself with gaining familiarity with the root of the positive and neutral points of view, those that don't seem so gripping, you strengthen yourself more and more to rest as those points of view that seem very disturbing. And a lot of times when the disturbing points of view come up, those are the ones we really want to run with. Just as an impulse, we want to get rid of the pain. We just want to get rid of the pain, so we'll do anything, no matter what it is, to get rid of the pain. And traditionally, in the great tradition of the epitome teachings, the direct teachings, like the Great Freedom Teaching, these types of disturbing emotions are called the poisons. Now, we can all very easily see why they're called the poisons, because they feel so gripping. It feels like we must do something about them, whatever it is we do. Eat a chocolate cake, or have sex, or take a drink, or smoke a joint, or enter into a new romance, change our lifestyle. It can be anything. So this is why these are called the poisons. When a gripping point of view like panic comes up, just continue to rest without describing anything about it, like, this is the end of me, the bottom's falling out, I have this because such and such happened. Just continue to stop description, and you will find yourself totally at rest as the space of that point of view. Because you see, no point of view, no matter what it is, poses a threat. It only is aware pure space, no matter what it's been labeled. So it poses no threat. It's not an obstacle. Just like you can look into the sky right now, and there are no obstacles anywhere in stainless sky. So too, in your own rested awareness, there are no obstacles whatsoever. All is stainless sky. And as much as it may seem like you can't do it, just don't describe. Even if you don't want to call it rest, just don't go into the description, and that will be rest. No matter what the description is called, it is timelessly free and unobstructed. And when we return ourselves again and again to the basic space of awareness, the basic space of rest, that is the entire substance of anything that appears, then more and more we have complete equanimity no matter what's happening. Whether it's panic, or you see, the panic and the complete ease of being are not two. They're not two, just like no thought and thought are not two. It's only in thinking that there are two, that there's the panic, and then that there's another state that's pleasurable, called ease of being, that there seem to be two. But when we rest repeatedly, then less and less can we see two anywhere. Now, no matter what antidotes you've been applying to your disturbing points of view, know that resting as awareness is a lot easier. It is a lot easier, even though it may seem earth-shattering at first and very difficult. Just stop the descriptions, whatever they are. And that will immediately place you in rest. Even if you don't have restful sensations in your body, it doesn't mean anything. Now you see, when rest occurs in the direct encounter with a disturbing emotion, then that disturbing emotion that's been returning again and again throughout life, and sometimes these disturbing emotions get worse and worse the older we get. What happens is that disturbing emotion is resolved in the basic space of awareness. It's resolved forever. So there isn't this thing of repeatedly going through these excruciating states of disturbing emotions and thinking about them and wondering if we'll ever get out of this disturbing state and attributing an origin to the disturbing state and all of these things. You know, as we get older, we have a lot more disturbing things going on with us. Now, a lot of you are young, but listen up, okay? Because I'm a little older, so anything disturbing you have going on now, it's going to get a lot more disturbing. You know, just sit here for a minute and notice every little ache and pain you have in your body. We all have them from the day we're born, so I know you have them right here, but just notice all those little aches and pains you have in your body, you young ones. Well, by the time you're my age, you'll have those aches and pains, and they'll be many orders of magnitude greater. And if you haven't rested as awareness, as the great equanimity of everything, no matter what its label might be, then any disturbances you have within you now are going to be even more exacerbated, because now you probably don't think about dying very much, or the end of your life for most of you, because you're young. But you know, when you get to be in your late 50s, the horizon gets closer. So you know, you have this body, it's falling apart, the mental states, you can't use them like you used to. Not so in my case. But you see, wisdom, it doesn't rely on age or any of this stuff. So wisdom is beyond all these debilities that we imply as belonging to a personal identity. But really, no matter what you do, just take all of your enthusiasm and courage and do not describe these states. There's the temptation in describing states to borrow all kinds of knowledge that has been heard about the states, like reading something in such a book, and it means this and it means that, and it can be quite overwhelming. So to just rest without describing it's very swift, and it will completely resolve this if it's something that has been repeated for you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by saying rest, do you mean detach from the negative experience that might be causing you pain or panic or whatever it is? Because that can sometimes be a great source of learning and understanding of yourself. Or are you saying to see it in a more phenomenological perspective of just, it's there and you're acknowledging it, but it's not negative or positive, it just is? Is that what you're saying?
It's not negative or positive, it just is, but in rest there's no thinking about that. So you can come to some sort of an understanding about it through proliferating a few thoughts. But you can never have a first-hand experience of that without resting as that space that is the basis of the thought itself. And, you know, you talk about finding useful information in that disturbing state. The only useful information in that disturbing state is its essence. That's the only useful information. Beyond the dictionary description and all the books that have been written about the dictionary description is wisdom. Wisdom that doesn't require any thoughts. So, you know, there's a lot written these days about, sit in your disturbing thoughts or emotions and learn from that. And that's all within time and space and cause and effect. You see, those kinds of concepts are frames of references that are time-bound and spatially bound and based on causation. But beyond all that, beyond causality, but including causality, is wisdom.
As an identity, that's what we're subject to, the time, space, and causality.
If one takes themselves to be that, yeah.
Mm. So what you're talking about is the resting in it is to go beyond even the dimension of time and space and causality, which is what I exist in most of the time as a human and being myself, to just go beyond all of that.
Correct. However, you say that you exist in time and space as a human, but do you? You know, do you? That's what I invite you to find out.
I'll ponder that.
Just rest, you know. You see, who you are is already accomplished. It's already present, so there's nothing to get to. And the time and space and that which is timeless are not two. And causation and that which is beyond causality are not two. And in rest, that is definitively realized.
I've got more. Okay. What I still see, though, is like my personality stemming from my history, like you were saying at the start. And then this method of just continually going back to this easeful, resting awareness, that's still, like, the way I'm interpreting that, is that still a process which is happening upon my identity? So habitually I'm going through these thoughts day after day and yet still trying to work against them, like in your sense of going into that easeful awareness. Isn't that just like any other process that you undertake to try and change the habitual nature of your thoughts so that...
Not at all.
No?
Because the starting point is the insubstantiality of the personal identity. So right from the beginning you say, I'm resting as awareness, all-encompassing awareness, including all points of view, including my personal identity. So maintain flawless awareness, see all as flawless awareness until all is flawless awareness. It's the only practice in which there is no doer. So you see, from the beginning, there only is awareness, including all points of view. The personal identity is completely insubstantial.
I'll sit with it. Thanks.
Hi.
Hi,
Candice. I have a question. I guess it's more a worry, a concern. No, it's not a concern. When you have problems or, say, negative points of view, perceptions that come, and then you rest in awareness, I kind of get the feeling that maybe this can be used as not an excuse, but an excuse not to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So is what you're saying more, if bad things happen and then you rest and just let it go, you will find a better way to react to situations as opposed to not reacting at all? Do you know what I'm saying?
You'll know what to do and how to act, and it will be of benefit to you and others.
It's more a benevolent way of reacting to people than going by what you would have always thought would be the actual response.
Yes, it's a more benevolent way of being yourself and being with others.
Hello. You said resting means to stop describing the sensations of the dynamic energy. And does that also mean that I stop talking to my friends, for example, about what's going on inside, about talking about my emotions, which is what I usually do 80% of the day? Because by talking, I describe it, I fix it, I give substance to it. This is what I'm experiencing the last days. I'm talking a lot about what is happening inside, but on the one hand, I feel tired about this talking. Because in a way, it's really fixing it.
Yeah.
Stop talking.
Well, you see, I don't need to tell you that because you're coming to a conclusion about that through your own experience. You just sat there and shared with us so beautifully that this is the way you've been relating to people 80% of the time, with your talking about your emotions, identifying yourself as that, trying to rearrange them or whatever through that talking, understand them better. And you're just noticing now that there may not be a need to relate based on that. So, what comes about for everyone who rests is that this occurs because when we substantialize ourselves, then we describe ourselves to others according to the substantialization we've made about ourselves. That's who we think we are. And so if we want others to know us, we think we have to tell them all our points of view. When we just rest as the ease of being at the basis, we find there's a natural relationality that is just really joyous and filled with love, that is always fresh and never has anything in the way. So what we've been seeking really in sharing all these things about ourselves is love and intimacy. That's what we want. We want to feel closer to ourselves and other people. When we find the true basis of that, then these other ways of being just gradually become unnecessary or quickly become unnecessary. It even hurts when we persist in doing it because we see that it isn't something that we need to do any longer. And that comes about in a very natural way.
Yeah, I just have to add something like that. I mean, a question. When you are saying like this, don't go into the description, which I can perfectly understand, but to me it seems like that many times that I don't see really a choice that I can stop it. It seems like, okay, if I could do this, then it would be the same, like, okay, no more thoughts. But I don't really see that I can do that.
Mm-hmm. It'll become easier and easier, and all the bleeders that go out from the initial thought, they'll just stop. They'll gradually resolve themselves in the basic space of awareness. That's always happening anyway. No matter what appears, it is its own undoing. Nothing needs to be done about it. Just like a line drawn in water, there's nothing that needs to be done about it. But with disturbing states, it's like stirring a pond with a stick until the water is very muddy. Well, if we keep stirring the pond with a stick in order to get the pond clear, it will never happen. And just so if we keep proliferating all these thoughts about the original disturbing thought or emotion, the clarity of awareness won't be obvious. But no need for you to be concerned about that. This will just naturally come about in a way that there just won't be a division any longer. Like I said, at first it seems that there is a division, but very quickly there will be less and less of a division. Then there will be subtle awareness present and obvious in all points of view. In other words, in all thoughts, emotions, and experiences that appear. And then very organically, without any effort or doing, that awareness will brighten. It'll become more and more obvious until that's all that is obvious. Just the single non-dual expanse of everything. So one way we could illustrate it, and this is very simple, is to look at it in this way. We've simply learned that we are all wrapped up in these points of view. That's just something we've learned. There isn't anything mysterious about it at all. We've learned that. So have you seen those dimmer switches that you can turn up and down? The light's very low or it's very bright. So this is like our natural dimmer switch being turned off. There's no light at all anywhere. We can't see what's going on. When we begin to rest as awareness, it's like turning up the dimmer switch gradually until it's completely wide open and bright. And just as the light switch lights up the room, it lights up itself. So, there's return to rest again and again, and it will become automatic, and this will be swift.
When you say restful, it brings to mind like just actually physically resting, but can that actually take place in action as well?
Absolutely, yeah. It's anywhere, doing anything. Yeah, the ease of being is inseparable from everything, no matter what it is. Everything is space, and it's origination, duration, and cessation. So that complete, easeful, natural order of everything is present as everything, no matter what it is.
And so is that coupled with possibility as well? Like, by being in that state, more becomes possible for you, not just the strict what I am and what I'm not, and
exactly.
It's kind of more unlimited.
Completely unlimited. You already are unlimited. You just recognize that more and more. Yeah. Francis?
I was just adding to what Anil said, just this rest is instant.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah. It's an instant thing.
Thanks, Francis. Oh, Ram Prasad.
When there is some point of view comes, particularly the negative point of views, it is seen immediately when it enters, it comes, and there is confusion sometimes at the mental level, at the same time rest. So in the beginning I have the option to when it comes, there is again description and the corresponding again confusion. Some at the mental level it's a struggle between two philosophies or something. So many things are going on, and at the same time there is rest also. So at the beginning stages of when the point of view is going to enter and about it starts the description and everything, I have an option to totally stop it. But at the same time The attitude what I'm taking is, yes, it's a point of view, and it is like coming of its own, and it is of its own undoing. So there is nothing to stop it also. It will come and it will go of its own. So of course it goes of its own after some time, but at the mental level, a little shaking. There is a rest behind, of course.
Absolutely.
There is shaking this thing. So should I allow it to happen like that, or should I try to stop it at the beginning itself without description, anything?
No, you have been practicing resting as awareness for quite a while now. So what you're experiencing is very appropriate to gaining familiarity with awareness, and what I just described as, no matter what the point of view is that appears, there's the subtle presence of awareness as that point of view. And it's very easy to see that they're their own undoing, like the line drawn in water, like the jet trail in the sky.
Sometimes, of course, that presence, awareness behind that confusion is more intense, and sometimes it is a little vague also, of course. It happens, but so I need not try to stop the description and try to do something about it. Allow it to continue. Should I, or should I try to stop it? What do you say?
Just keep resting as awareness, and all of it, no matter how confusing it seems, it'll be its own undoing. We all have these belief systems we've learned, and
no, not like that. Not with effort. Suppose some negative point of view come. Even from the mental level, I can work it out. Like, not again intellectualizing and trying to bring some more philosophy and counteracting that. Not only that, just at the mental level, I can say stop, and I can stop it. Simple. But even another option, I have to allow it to continue also.
Exactly.
So should I stop it immediately, or should I allow it to continue?
It's totally up to you. When you're resting as awareness, you'll be resting as awareness as the stopping, or resting as awareness as the thoughts you're having about it. But either way, it's the awareness that's predominant for you, rather than the point of view, because you have been practicing for a while. Now, we all have all kinds of points of view that come up because there have been so many belief systems that most of us have been hearing about all of our lives, and we've become very invested in those. So we've put all our money on those philosophies, so to speak.
Yes.
And so we've really substantialized them and separated them out from all other philosophies, saying this is the only one. Now, when we rest as awareness, this whole world of substantiality of philosophies and which this is the right one, that's the wrong one, it just all opens up into pure space. And this is coming about very naturally for you. Now, a correct understanding about philosophies, or another word is teachings about the matter of recognizing one's own nature, is that this is the correct understanding. In aware basic space, all appearances naturally are included and contained. And within that space, wherever there are beings who have substantialized themselves and taken themselves to be somebody, then there will be philosophies and teachers that match their ideas about who they take themselves to be. So you see, there isn't any right or wrong. It's just the benevolence of awareness that whatever beings believe about themselves, then wisdom awareness will emanate beings to help those beings who have substantialized themselves in any particular way. So there's no right or wrong, no better way or worse way. And for people who come here, many people are open-minded enough that they open up beyond their philosophy that they've been holding to for most of their life. But in that, what is usually found is that this is the essential method of the philosophy that they've been enjoying already. Do you see what I'm saying? And I know what your philosophy is that you've been practicing for many, many years. And the essence of that philosophy is indistinct from what is being described here.
That's all.
Yeah.